touching introduction, and that's why I love coming to events with members of the South Shore Women's Business Network, because I just am so amazed at the sense of sisterhood I have as someone from Boston, as someone who tends to be younger than the membership. I still feel this inclusiveness and this real sense of family. So thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. And I want to thank all of you for rallying so early in the morning to be here, and I'm so humbled to have the opportunity to share my story. As a woman entrepreneur who works primarily from a home office, which I'm sure many in the room can relate to, usually at this time I'm still catching up on emails, sitting at my desk with coffee, and I know how much it takes to really, when you have so much on your plate, to take time to come out for something like this, so I really appreciate it. So the logo of Prosperity Candle is up here, but I actually don't want to focus completely on Prosperity Candle. You can read our website, look at the products that the Massachusetts Educational Foundation so generously gifted to each of you. But I really want to share my story and how I came to do this really unusual work. It's not a typical career path that I've chosen, and I've been really fortunate to have all types of opportunities and support along the way to help me to kind of humor my unusual interests and help me figure out how they all come together and create this career that I've created. And I just want to mention, I really appreciate that the Massachusetts Educational Foundation focuses on women over 35. I'm 33 myself, and I found that a lot of opportunities for social entrepreneurs are focused on people who are 30 or below. And I always feel so frustrated by that, because I'm in this weird middle space, and so it's great to see an opportunity that's specifically for older women. So before I tell a little bit more about my own story and how I got into the career that I'm in, and then an introduction to Prosperity Candle, I want to tell this story quickly of 4 women who have really changed my life. If you can go to the first. This photo's a little hard to see, but the woman on the left in the sari is named... There. Tina, just sit down. All right, hopefully everyone won't fall asleep now. Everyone, feel free to get up and get more food and coffee, by the way, I won't be offended. So the woman on the left in the sari is named Urmila, and she lives in Nepal, was born in Nepal, and is just this incredible woman who influenced me when I was 19 years old and really changed the trajectory of my life. She is a woman who was born into an affluent family in Nepal and is a very talented artist. And she, by the nature of the family she was born into, she had a lot of incredible opportunities to leave Nepal, leave the poverty behind, exhibit her artwork in Europe. She married a Canadian mathematician and had this opportunity to leave and do whatever she wanted, but she chose to go back to Nepal, and she chose to use her art and craft skills to share it with other women and girls who were less fortunate. So she runs a community center that works with a rotating group of about 30 teenage women who are orphaned or come from disadvantaged families, and give them the opportunity to rebuild a life and have economic opportunity through crafts. And here she's pictured, part of what she does is they produce their own silk. And so this photo shows the silkworm production room they have where they raise the silkworms, and at this stage they've created the cocoons which are turned into silk later on. So I'll come back to her later, but the next woman I want to talk about is Mantabi Singh. And she is a woman who I was privileged enough to work with for 3 years in Lesotho. It's a small country in southern Africa. You probably haven't heard of it or seen it on a map. It's surrounded by South Africa. I was a Peace Corps volunteer there, which is where I met my husband Jeremy, who's so kind to support me here today. So he knows Mantabi Singh well as well. And she is this tenacious businesswoman who is mother of 5, grandmother to many more, and runs a company along with 7 other women. So actually it kind of reminds me of South Shore Women's Business Network, and this group of women that came together wanting to create a difference in their community. So they have a weaving business, they're employing all women, weavers, spinners, and still struggling a lot, but really creating a difference for their members. So the next woman is Nasima. I'm pictured here with her. I met Nasima and worked with her for a much shorter time. She's from Afghanistan and is also working with silk, just coincidentally. She is a businesswoman running a silk weaving business and is, despite all the turmoil in Afghanistan over the past couple of decades, has been really determined to create a business that thrives, that brings back the silk weaving industry, and that betters her community. She employs men and women and just represents so much hope to me. And you meet this woman and she's so full of grace and confidence, the most elegant woman I think I've ever met, and yet surrounding her is this chaos. And to me, she really embodies what women are capable of. And so the last woman I want to introduce you to is someone you could actually meet, who's closer to home. Her name is Muko, and she's here with her 2 twins. She is a refugee from Burma who now lives here in Massachusetts in West Springfield. She and her family have been resettled after a tumultuous childhood. She now lives in West Springfield and works with Prosperity Candle. From the very beginning, when we hired her, we saw that she had an amazing talent, attention to detail, and just really cared about every single candle she made. And so actually if you look on your candles, the name of the woman that made it is on the side, and I'm sure Muko's name is on many of them in the room. If not hers, then her colleagues, Mimi and Dawn. But Muko's emerged not only as a candle making leader and trainer, we just promoted her to be a production manager, so she's now going to be doing some of the fulfillment and customer service and training other women, but she's also a spiritual leader in her community. And she, like all the other women I've introduced, just represents so much hope and possibility in women. So you may be wondering, how on earth did I get involved with this type of work? How did I end up being in Afghanistan and working with Burmese refugees? And that's myself on the left with my sister. After Christmas one year, when we finally got the Cabbage Patch dolls, the real ones that we've been so desperate to get, my grandmother actually made handmade Cabbage Patch dolls, which looking back are so much cooler than the store-bought ones. But we were absolutely determined to get the real ones with the hard heads. But this just kind of, this photo reminds me of where I started and what my aspirations were at that age and the background I came from. And most of the people that I grew up with and went to school with didn't end up traveling the world and learning different languages and having this unusual career. And it was a really interesting opportunity to be invited here today because it helped me think through what were those life-changing events, what were those pivotal moments that set me on a different trajectory. And I really come back to the fact that it was a few different scholarships that I received, and then the support and mentorship of others that helped me think differently about the world. And so if you go to the next slide, these are my parents who played an enormous role in shaping me. This is them when they were visiting me in Lesotho, meeting a woman potter who I lived with for a short time. But my parents, as Susan mentioned, they're both teachers. They started teaching at a private school in Western Massachusetts after they themselves got back from the Peace Corps. And so as teachers and 2 former Peace Corps volunteers, their 2 core things that they wanted to make sure their children did was get a really good education and travel the world and think outside of their own community. And when they realized that the high school where they taught could offer their children a free private school education, they decided, for the sake of all 4 of us, I'm the first of 4, they decided to stay there for 33 years so that we could have access to a type of education that we never would have been able to afford. My parents are the first, their generation on both sides is the first to get a college education, which I'm sure a lot of people here can relate to. It's just, it's pretty a new thing. Even in the United States, to have access to that kind of education. And my dad is from working class Methuen, and he saw that when his parents prioritized his education, the life of his whole family and my uncle's family just completely changed and took a different path than his cousins. So they've made a really strong commitment to education and opportunity for us, which I'm so thankful for because it didn't come naturally to me.